Hello and welcome to a slightly different video this time. We're taking a look at some old Your Sinclair Spectrum magazines that I got in the post recently from the 80s and 90s. We have, I think, 5 issues here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to take a quick look at them and see what they're all about. I used to collect this magazine back in the day, and I got rid of my whole collection quite a while ago. So I saw these quite cheaply on eBay, decided to pick them up and take a look. So take a look. This is obviously like a sports focused issue. This one is from July 1988. We will ignore the picture of Rolf Harris there. So yeah, it's looking like a mostly sports issue. I'm generally not into sports games all that much. The Daley Thompson game was quite good though. I had that. I'm definitely not into modern sports games, but there were some on the Spectrum that I was definitely into. Letters Page was always one of my favourites to read back in the day. A lot of this is going to be adverts. You know, I've never actually seen an advert for the original Street Fighter before, so that's interesting. And it's generally going to look a lot worse on the Spectrum than it does on all the others, but you know, that's to be expected. It's not exactly an Atari ST like that, so. I've never actually played the original Street Fighter. I've played loads of Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 was actually on the Spectrum as well. But I never actually played the Spectrum version. I played a lot of the SNES version. So these are tips. That is a map for where time stood still, which looks like a dinosaur kind of game. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Oh, it's another map for Blind Panic. Practical pokes. Now, pokes are cheats essentially, which allow you to kind of like hack the game and give yourself more lives, extra health, and what have you. Obviously different for each game. So those are quite useful. They usually had them on the cover cassette as well. These magazines all came with cover cassettes with games on and stuff like that. So more maps and stuff. It's the actual games I want to be looking at. There's something cut out there, not entirely sure what. I guess some kind of cricket related thing there. Advert for the Ninja, or was that Last Ninja? Last Ninja 2. Rampage was decent on the Spectrum, so was Renegade. And that's competition to win Street Fighter. Competition winners. The reviews is kind of like the best part of the magazine, really. Getting to look at all the new releases. Starring Charlie Chaplin. I used to have that. I'm not sure if I still do. Earthlight. I've not actually heard of a lot of these games, to be honest. I have got about 300 odd Spectrum games, but I'm not quite sure what a lot of these are. Operation Wolf. Now this is something I've got on the Spectrum and the Commodore 64 and the Master System as well. So really good, kind of light gun kind of game. I mean, it was a light gun game in the arcade. There was a Spectrum light gun. I'm not entirely sure if this game utilised it. I'll have to try that because I do actually have one. That's a cool poster. What is it for? Mind Fighter. And some more mini reviews. Target Renegade. I remember that being quite decent. Yeah, a lot of this is going to be adverts. But Bionic Commando. The original Street Fighter as well. Obviously, like most people haven't even played the original Street Fighter. But obviously number 2 is where it all kicked off. Not quite sure why Roger Moore is there. And this just looks like news. Oh no, it's a feature about reissued games. So have a quick flick through the rest of these. Reviews of some bargain games. Back issues. I think the rest of this is mostly going to be adverts. YS Adventures. I'm not entirely sure what that is. But yeah, more adverts. But I guess you need the adverts so that they keeps the cost of the magazine down quite a bit. And some stuff that you can type into the Spectrum Basic there. More letters. Pen pals. Do you remember when magazines had pen pal sections? And another advert there for some more Ocean military games. Desolator on the back. Okay, this one is from... Where is the date on this? December 1989. All of those are decent games. Strider, Ghouls and Ghosts, Moonwalker, Turbo Outrun. Chase HQ. That was a fairly decent one if I remember. Operation Thunderbolt. I think I have that, but I've never actually played it. Wonder Boy. I actually was not even aware there was a Wonder Boy Spectrum version. So that's something new I've learned. It's on the tape as well. Although I didn't get the tapes with these. I do have a lot of cover tapes, but I don't think I have any from magazines this early. Operation Thunderbolt. More adverts. Oh, you can win a Sony Discman. Do you remember when portable CD players were a thing? Most people don't even know what CDs are now. Some more budget games. I mean, something like Ghouls and Ghosts, $2.99, absolutely. Paperboy, yeah. Again, a lot of games I haven't actually heard of. I've heard of Hard Driving. I remember it being terrible. Unless I'm confusing it with something else. The Batman game. The Batman game was absolutely awesome. Love that game. The Spectrum version is still my favourite version of that game as well. Still never completed it because one of the driving sections is rock solid. That's from Ghostbusters 2. Ghouls and Ghosts is a classic, although it is better on the NES. Talking Heads, what's this all about? Just readers of the magazine, I guess. Tusker, that's a pretty cool poster. Moonwalker, yeah, the Spectrum version, I have it, but most of my play is on the Master System version, which I quite enjoy. The Mega Drive version, I think, is the best one, from what I remember. So where's the rest of the reviews? So this is, again, the programming section. And you can make your own Michael Jackson there, with the little cutouts there. RoboCop was another awesome game on Spectrum. Absolutely fantastic game with awesome music in it. Some of the best music on the Spectrum. And I guess this is a review of some Elite games. Ghostbusters 2 Spectrum game. Never played that. And again, more adverts. So episode number 3, which is kind of falling apart. But never mind, it's actually upside down. Oh, fuck is that? These compilations were a really good way to get a few games quite cheap. Cover art for games used to be awesome back then as well. Well, not entirely. Some of them were bloody terrible. Cyberball, I guess, is a kind of like Speedball ripoff. Chase HQ, really decent game. Turbo Outrun. I've not played Turbo Outrun on the Spectrum, but I have played it on other systems. I think the Master System. No, I might be thinking of Battle Outrun for the Master System. I'm not entirely sure. Skip through the letters and adverts. A lot of adverts in this one. Some more bargain games. The Great Escape is probably my favourite game on the Spectrum. I love that game. I wish I could still get it for $2.99. It's a bit of a more expensive game these days. But you had to escape prison. And it was a very odd kind of game. You had to kind of like check out guard patterns and work out the best way to escape. Really interesting game. Thanatos, I have that for the Commodore 64, I don't have that for the Spectrum. A map for Mr. Heli. Remember when Paul Gascoigne was a thing? That's a cool little poster. I used to have a subscription to this magazine and got it every single month. I don't believe I got it this early though. I think it was the early 90s that I actually started getting the magazine. I was playing the Spectrum in the 80s, but not really reading a hell of a lot about it. Batman game again. Dan Dare 2, which I have. I didn't realise there was Monopoly for it. I'll have to check that out. Oh, Cluedo. Cluedo. I love Cluedo. I'll have to see if I can pick that one up. This is a Snoopy game. Quite a nice little art style there. Quite simple. Works quite well on a system like Spectrum. And that hideous poster again. Golden Axe. This one is from September 1990. Back to the Future Part 2, my least favourite Back to the Future film. Still decent, but it's not up to the standard of the other two, I don't think. Golden Axe preview there. We covered Golden Axe on the Retro Odyssey podcast not too long ago, but that was a Mega Drive version. Shadow Warrior, I remember that. SimCity, I've just picked that up on the SNES. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually available for the Spectrum. It doesn't really say. This might just be an advert for the SNES version, or Amiga maybe. But yeah, I picked it up on the SNES not too long ago. After watching Pro Jared play through quite a bit of it, I decided, yeah, I want to get that again. I had it when I was a kid. That looks interesting. I'm always interested in horror games and stuff like that. Night Hunter. Back into the letters section. I really want an Amiga. I'm just waiting until I find one for a decent enough price. Oh, okay. That is, yeah, that's very 80s. It's not particularly well drawn either, I wouldn't have said, but, I don't know. I guess this is when the Amiga and Atari were kind of like really getting a lot of attention, because there's a lot of Amiga adverts in here and Atari adverts. Puzzle games. We're actually playing a Spectrum puzzle game for the next Retro Odyssey podcast. I won't say which one. It's not one of the ones on that page, but no, it's not. It's not in this feature. But you've got that to look forward to in a few weeks' time. What do we got here? Impossible Mission 2 is brilliant on the Commodore 64. I've not played the Spectrum version. Okay, so let's have a look at the last one. This is from February 1990. And that's the kind of cover art you want to see on a magazine shelf. That's pretty cool. We have a CD-ROM review. I didn't even realise there was a CD-ROM available for the Spectrum. So that's something new I've learnt. All the stuff that's on the tape. Okay, I guess this is like a map section, cheat section. Taking up quite a lot of the magazine. Moonwalker review. What's this called? Out? X out? I don't know. This wasn't the only Spectrum magazine. You also had Crash. That was the main competing one to Your Sinclair. And I think there was another one, although I don't quite remember the name of it right now. But just like with the console wars, everyone had their favourite, and you'd have arguments about which one was better. My friend collected Crash, I collected Your Sinclair. To be honest, we both just read each other's magazines. It was best of both worlds, really. I guess this is like a pull-out poster kind of thing. Oh, with the big thing on the back. Yeah, it is a poster. That looks quite cool. I might pull that out and use that. Hell of a lot of adverts in this one. Sorceress, that's quite nice artwork. Coin-ops, I guess these are like, are they reviews of the actual coin-ops, or are they Spectrum versions of them? Yeah, I guess they're covering arcade games as well. Quasar, that's definitely not running on the Spectrum right there. Space Harrier 2. I love the arcade version of Space Harrier. I've not actually played Space Harrier 2. I can't imagine it working great on the Spectrum because you kind of need a lot of speed for it. So this is the CD thing. Huh. I wonder if it is actually for the Spectrum. Appears to be. Okay, and that looks like the end of it. Another advert on the back and an advert for Turbo Outrun there. So yeah, that was a look at 5 Your Sinclair magazines. I will give these all a read at some point in a bit more depth. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.